Computer. Yes. Okay, so hi everybody. Hopefully we are recording now. And what I'm going to do with this Zoom is I'm going to show you how I engrave on these envelope necklaces that I have purchased. Let me get it over here maybe. Now the camera on my phone or on my laptop is not the best, so I will be posting pictures and stuff later. There you go. Maybe you can see it there. And you'll get some better pictures of it. But I needed to be able to show you my screen, so how I set things up in the xTool, and then also show you the xTool laser itself, the F1. And I thought this is kind of the easiest way to do it. So I have my phone on the Zoom. It is pointing towards the laser. And then, of course, I am here on my laptop. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit share screen. And I want to share this. We'll see if this works. Okay, great. So here we are. We're in the creative space software. So to get started, the very first thing I'm going to do when I want to engrave something like this is I need to figure out how much space I have to engrave on. So because this is such a small area, I do use millimeters instead of inches. So here's a quick tip. You can either design everything and have everything done in inches, or you can have it done in millimeters. And to change back and forth, so for instance, if I click on this box right here, and you come up here at the top, it says 15 and 10. If you look at the size here, that says millimeters. If I wanted to, I could come over and I could click over here at the left where it says settings. And here it says millimeters and it has inches. So this is where I could switch this if I wanted to. But because again, we're working in such a small space, such a small item, I'm going to leave it as millimeters. So the first thing I did is I measured out my envelope and I figured about how big of a space I had to engrave on. So I figured it about 10 by 3 millimeters. So that's this box down here. And so if you look, I'm sorry, I made it 13 by 3 millimeters. So I draw a box and then let me kind of move me out of the way. And over here, I hit ignore because I'm not going to engrave or do anything with this box. That's just for me to type the name in. And that's what I did. I typed in Chandler, and I've already done this one. And then what I will do is I would click on Chandler. And when I'm engraving these are stainless steel. So I use the IR. I use a setting of 100 power, a speed of 3. That's kind of slow, but it gives me a really black, dark engrave that doesn't like fade out in the light. Sometimes you'll engrave something and then when you have it in the light, you can't hardly see it, but this will stay black regardless. It's a really good engrave. And then I use 200 LPC, which is lines per centimeters. So those are my settings. But what I would do is after I type this, then I frame it. So I'm going to do the sweets ones because I actually did engrave sweets, but I messed that one up because I forgot to switch from the blue light to the IR. So it tried to engrave it, but it actually warped my metal. So be careful and make sure you always have the correct laser type that you want. So anyway, I know that these little envelopes, I hope you can see them here, get it over here, maybe where you can see it. So this little tag comes in the envelope. So I am going to engrave the back side. So I measured it out and I made a square or a rectangle. And let's see, I measured it to be 15 millimeters by 10 millimeters high. Now, if you don't know how to make a box, what you do is you come over here to insert, click on it, and then click on the square. I'm kind of in the way again. Let me scoot me over. Click on insert, click on rectangle, and then come over here and just draw it out. Now, up here at the top, you have the measurements and it's locked. So if I change the width to 15, it changes the height to 8, but I need that to be 10. So I would hit this unlock and then I can come over here. I can put in 10 and then I have the correct size box. So that's how I got my box down here. So I don't need this one. I already have one. So I'm just going to delete it. Now, another thing that's kind of cool is you can put things on different layers. So you can give different text items, your SVGs, your layers, different colors, and it puts it on its own layer. So I have Chandler is one color, my boxes are one color, and then Sweets is a different color. And to change the color, you click on the word, the box, whatever, and then you right click and these colors come up. So if I wanted to, I could make Sweets red. Doesn't really matter. It just helps me to keep the layers all separate. Another thing, if I click on this purple button over here, which is the color of my boxes, then I can come over here and I can hit ignore, and they're not going to show up when I process it. So if I want to make sure like my Chandler is ignored because I've already done it, I can click on blue, that's highlighted, and you come over here and it says ignore. Okay, so but now we are going to engrave Sweets. So I want to make sure that I have it set to engrave, and I do have it on output. Again, I'm using the IR, which is the infrared laser. My power is at 100. My speed is at 3, 200 lines per centimeter. Now, the next thing I have to do is frame it. And I don't want to ignore this right at the moment because I want to frame it. I want to know how big my little metal piece is, and I want it to frame that so that I can put this on my laser and know where to set it. Okay, so it'll all make sense here in a second. So first of all, I'm going to quit sharing here. Just a second, if I can hit that. Okay, so I'm going to come over here and I'm going to try and keep my big butt out of the picture of the laser and hopefully just do this where you guys can see what's going on. Let me see, maybe I can, I was thinking maybe I could make this one the speaker. Nope, that won't work. Okay, so hopefully you can see what I'm doing. First of all, I am just going to set this little tag here in the middle because I need to get the focus on it. So I'm going to hit frame. That'll turn it back on. Stop the framing. And now I can see the dots. Okay. So I need to come over and I need to frame. So hopefully I can do this without getting too much in your guys' way. To frame it, you have this knob here at the side facing your laser. It's on the right hand side. It's got this blue ring light around it. You turn this knob and you want the red light and the blue light like right on top of each other. That's how you know it's in focus. Okay. So now it is focused to this tag. Okay. So now I'm coming back and I am going to click on this box and I want to frame this box. So I'm going to make sure the output's on. Now I hit framing and I hope you guys can see right here. Let me see if you guys can see this okay. Well, I can't tell. See if I can bring it in a little closer. But anyway, there's this blue rectangle here, and I want to get my little tag like in the center of that. I'm going to stand up. So you guys are probably looking at my big butt there, right? So anyway, I think that's pretty good. So now I'm going to stop the framing. Okay, so I'm going to come back over here and I'm going to share my screen again. And again, we want to share the creative space. Okay, so I hit the framing button and I have the tag where it needs to be. Now I'm just going to shut off the box. So I'm clicking on this box and I'm going to hit ignore because the next thing I'm going to want to do is I want to make sure this Sweets is kind of centered within the box. So I'm going to hit the framing again. And this time it's going to be a smaller box because I'm just framing the sweets and not that outside box. And I'm looking at this and I'm thinking I'm going to raise it just a little. And that looks pretty good to me. Okay, so I'm going to hit stop framing. Again, make sure you're on the right settings. IR, 100 power, 3 speed, 200 lines per centimeter. This can change with your laser. Your settings may need to be a little different. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to hit process. And only sweets shows up. So that's when you know you've got the right things ignored and the right things set to output. So I'm going to hit start. Now you hear the beep. So I'm going to make sure that my green encasement is down. This blue light back here is flashing. So I'm going to hit start. Stop sharing here. Okay. So I don't know if you saw all that. Just lower the screen, hit the start button, which is right over here. Now, this will take a little bit because I'm doing a speed of 3, and that is slower. Now, another thing that I did, if you're looking at my laser, you probably just saw the light turn on. There is a setting. I'm sorry if I'm yelling. Sometimes with me being deaf in one ear, I can't tell how loud I am. So there is a setting. I'll share the screen again. Well, no, because it's not going to let me show you with it running. Okay, so we'll minimize this. There is a setting up here. And when you click on this little icon gear up here, and you click on setting, see where it says infrared ray preheat? You want to make sure this is on. So what it does is it gives that infrared light, it gives it time to heat up. It's like 10 seconds. And then it'll start the lasering. And the reason that's important is sometimes if that laser is cold, when it starts lasering, you won't, like maybe the very beginning of your lasering might be kind of light. It might not be as dark as the rest of the words because it like gets hotter as it runs. So you want it to preheat a little bit. Okay, so what I would do next, well, that is lasering. What I would do next is I would just come over here and I'm going to leave these boxes where they're at because I know that they're pretty well set in a good spot. I would just come over, I would move Chandler out of the way. I would come over, I would hit text. And whenever you hit the text button, you always get this great big hello. And I would put in my new name, which I know the envelope is going to say mom. So I would type in mom. And I would come over here and I would hit engrave. So that's the kind of the difference between score and engrave. When you're looking at your screen, when you hit engrave, it fills it in. If I'm at score, you just have the outline. So, but I'm going to set it to engrave, and that way it's filled in. Now you can pick different fonts. You can pick different sizes. So the font that I was using is this Amida, and you can either like shrink this down, click on the word. You can grab these boxes here and see how I now have like an arrow. I can shrink it down, and I want it to fit in this box. So I can shrinking it down till it fits in the box. Or you can even just type in a number that you want. So I'm going to say 8. I'm pretty sure that's what Chandler was. So when I click on Chandler and I look, I had that at 8. So I'm going to leave mom at 8. And this one will be ready then for me to do the next envelope. And I don't remember what word I was supposed to put on the box. So I'll have to look on my phone as soon as the laser is done. But this is kind of how, well, this is how I set everything up to do these envelopes. And this would work for any kind of jewelry that you're doing. So maybe you're doing the bar necklaces or whatever. I'll get back to that in just a second. So if you look over here, it will tell you it took me 3 minutes and 48 seconds to engrave that. So I'm going to just hit OK, and then it will take me back to my screen. So let's look at it and see what we got. Okay, it looks really good. So I'm going to stop the share again. And let's see if I can get this where you guys can see it. Can you guys see that? So it really is dark, even with the, well, there's no light, but so see, even in the shadows or in, in the dark or whatever, it stays really dark. So that one turned out really good. So I have 2 more to go. But what I was saying, no matter what kind of jewelry that you're doing, I always start it with the same thing. So I had shared this necklace, this pendant before, and this is one that I did that has color to it. And I can do a video on that one later. But again, what I would do is I would just take my ruler and I would measure out about what size box I want that would fit on here. You got to make sure you allow for the pendant up here, and I want a little space at the top, a little space at the bottom. So I would just measure about how big I would want my box, and I would draw that box out in my Creative Space software, and then I would just make sure my fonts fit in that software. So anyway, I hope this is helpful, and if you have questions after you see this, just be sure and let me know, and I'll try and answer them if I can. So thanks, guys, and we'll talk to you again soon. Bye-bye.